Hi everyone, and welcome back to Pencils and Stories. Today I want to kind of drop a question in here, and that is, do we need to create every day? So I got the idea for this video because I got a pretty sweet t-shirt from the guys over at ConvertKit. ConvertKit is an email service provider that I currently use. I'm in no way affiliated with them, but you know, they have this kind of like intro where you kind of set everything up and you make kind of like an email sequence and stuff, and then eventually I was done and they were like, here's a free t-shirt. I was like, okay, sweet. So I went to the website that they sent me to, and there were two options for a shirt, and I already kind of forgot what the second option was, but one of the options was this shirt, and it immediately caught my eye, and I really like the idea. It's kind of like a challenge, but also kind of like something that gets me fired up a bit because I love creating stuff. But then I was like, I had this kind of moment where I was like, am I gonna buy this t-shirt? Because do I truly believe this? Because create every day is a thing that we hear a lot, and we hear a lot of other artists talk about this. And here's the thing, the idea is usually that in order to improve and in order to become a better artist, people will encourage you to draw every single day, to create every single day. Which in and of itself absolutely completely makes sense. I'm not against any of that, but it also poses a problem for the people who either cannot do that, or the people who are art blocked, or there's all kinds of reasons why, you have those challenges where you do a kind of like don't break the streak thing, where you put on a kind of like a calendar thing, and you cross off every single day that you do a habit. For example, like, did I brush my teeth every day? Did I meditate every day? And some people do that for art, and they even make it kind of like a goal. From now on, I want to create every day. I want to make one drawing every day, which is it's an admirable goal. It's also something that I wonder if anybody ever can keep up with it. For example, people who make daily comics. Like, I do my comic every day. I even draw when I'm sick. There's people who can. There's people who can do that. Hopefully it's their job as well. I hope they're paid for it. So it can definitely be done. You would completely have to set up a good system and not have a comic that will take you the whole day to be able to do that, but it surely can be done. I've also heard this with teachers. They will say, if you practice for 1 hour a day, you practice something for 1 hour a day, and then for 30 days or for longer, like 90 days or something, then you will have improved. And that's absolutely true. So in the sense of regular, deliberate practice, it totally makes sense to create every day. But here's the thing. Am I doing it wrong if I don't do this? Am I a bad artist if I do not draw every day? Am I a bad writer because I'm not writing every day? If you do creations of any sort and you don't do it every single day, does that mean that you're not committed enough? There's these kinds of things usually that's below kind of like things we tell ourselves, because then we start putting pressure on ourselves. So we tell ourselves that, like, I have to create every day because I'm a creator. I have to draw every single day because I'm an artist. If you then don't do it, or if you do kind of like a challenge like that and you miss a day, like, it will throw people off. Some people do a challenge of 30 days, they miss one day, and they immediately stop the entire challenge, even though you could still have done 20 days, because mentally that trips us up, because now we have this pressure on ourselves to do that every single day. So that's kind of like why I hesitated with the t-shirt, because, I don't want to be walking around like, yeah, you have to create every day and stuff. But then I was like, the word creating is a super broad word. It doesn't necessarily mean draw. It doesn't necessarily mean, make a creation every day. But the act of creating in itself is something that I think, and some people like Seth Godin, for example, agree with me on this. Creating is something that you don't necessarily do with a pen or a pencil. We create every single day anyway. And creating, of course, is related to the word creativity, which is also very broad. And you can be very creative in your job that basically consists of doing computer work at some company that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with graphics or with creative writing, but you can still be you can come up with creative solutions to problems. You can come up with creative ways to cheer somebody up. You can come up with a creative way to look at your current life situation. Like, you can come up with creative ideas to make money, creative ideas to run your business. Creativity in itself as a word is very broad. So when it says create every day, I think we can use that in the broader sense. That's why I eventually bought the t-shirt, because I really like that idea, because you can kind of get your brain into a mindset of looking for new opportunities, looking for new ideas, looking for new ways to do stuff in your daily life. And then when I tie it back to drawing or writing or any form of creating, like music, singing, dancing, whatever it is, obviously you want to kind of like maintain the quality of your work. You want to practice regularly to improve. But if there's days that it's hard to create because you have a job that like sucks up all your time, or you're taking care of your family, or if there's anything, maybe you have less energy. Like I talked about it in the other video about start your art project. Like there are certain periods in your life where it's really hard to be creative. I had a period when I was being chronically tired and I was exhausted, and I could sit at my desk, but all I wanted to do was sleep. Like my brain would think, oh, I want to sleep, I want to sleep, I want to sleep. So I could sit in front of a sketchbook with a pencil in my hand, and I could literally stare at it for half an hour and almost falling asleep. It was very, very hard to be creative in that kind of like physical exhaustion. So, and then obviously I'm gonna talk about that later in later videos. But you put all that pressure on yourself. I put so much pressure on myself because I have time. I should be creating now, and I was still kind of watching tutorials and videos online, and everybody was like, yeah, you need to draw every day to get better. And I was like, I want to, I can't. So that was part of the hesitation of me getting this shirt, because I remember days when it was just really hard to be creative. But what I also learned, and what can be really helpful in those days, is that even though you're not necessarily in the possibility to actually grab paper and pen and draw, what you can still do is look at certain things, like look around you with the mindset of an artist. It's a sort of like, you can stay in a creative mindset without actually performing any act of creation. For example, you're at the bus stop. You don't have paper on you or pencil. Could, which is another tip I want to give you later. But you could stand there and just watch people. And you can watch how they act. You can watch how they move. You can watch how they stand. You can kind of, like, for example, stand there for 5 minutes and look at the line of action in every single figure that you see. We are all standing at the bus stop. That's gonna be maybe kind of like the same. But if you see people walking by, if you see people on a bike, if you see people sitting in a car or sitting on a terrace, you can definitely kind of, without drawing itself, you can still look with the artist's eye and still look at that. Same if you're a writer, you can see what people are doing and kind of narrate it in your head. Or you can kind of like memorize passages of your favorite books. And then when you're at the bus stop, you can kind of repeat them to yourself and analyze them. I do that a lot when I'm in the train. That's because my brain really likes to do that. I like to pick apart movies and try to figure out patterns and symbolism and stuff. So that's something that my brain likes to do. And And it's helpful because it helps me understand story structures. So that's still something you can do even though you're not necessarily creating a piece of artwork. You can still do that kind of stuff. And while we're at the mention of the bus stop, what I did for a while, which was actually helpful, because I had a period when I had very short sprints in like trams and metros. So I was sitting in a metro and I was in there for like 5 minutes or something, or 10 minutes, which sounds like a very short time. But what I actually did was I got one of those small kind of like blank notebooks with a hardcover, and it fit inside the pocket of my jacket perfectly. And then I have an inking pen with me, so I have a tiny booklet and I have an inking pen, and in 10 minutes I can do some sketches. I can sketch the people in the tram, or I can sketch some fantasy creatures or whatever, or you can write stuff down. You know, but you kind of have to you have to get into that mindset of not sitting and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look at the trees outside, or I'm gonna spend time on my phone, because that's the default. Like when I sit in a metro, my first thing I want to do is like, oh, I have 10 minutes. Well, I'll check Facebook for a bit, or I'll check Twitter. So that's kind of like a mindset you need to get into, which I think fits into the category of creating every day. You can still create every day without actually making a drawing. It will also keep your creative juices flowing, I think. If you look at people's poses for a week long during your work and during your commute, hopefully by the weekend you'll be excited to actually start drawing people. Or you can do that in your lunch break or whatever. So you can still do things even though you have less time to create. And that I think goes for, you know, a lot of disciplines, like not just drawing. That's kind of like being in a creative mindset and spending your brain power on creative problems or improving or just watching the world around you and learning from that. So that is something that I personally can still grow in. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this video is that yes, it's good to plan in deliberate practice, plan in the time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. In fact, when you're doing very high intensity, deliberate practice, it's something that you cannot do the entire day long. One book I really recommend on this subject is the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, that talks about this idea of deliberate practice, which really helps you to improve. So make it as possible as you can, but also I find it really hard to be creative when I'm putting pressure on myself. Creativity is this weird thing where it needs a little bit of space to breathe. And if you put a lot of pressure on yourself, then it might actually get harder to be creative. So if you are in a position where it's very hard to create for longer times every day, try to grab those little snippets of time, but also try to grab those tiny moments in which you can still improve something and still look at stuff in a creative way, or still come up with solutions or kind of analyze things without actually making something tangible. So that's why I still bought the shirt, because I really like the idea of being in a creative mindset every single day and to create every single day. And like I said, creating doesn't necessarily have to be with a pen and pencil or with a computer. You can also create really awesome conversations. You can create a solution for your boss. You can do a shout out on social media for somebody, whose work you really love. Like, you can create moments, you can create solutions, you can create relationships. So that's what I want to tell you guys, is like, create every day. Do it in a creative way though, if you don't have a lot of time. That was it for this week's video. If you have limited time and you still want to be doing some kind of personal project, I have a list of tiny projects, 30 tiny projects in fact, on my website, which you can find at pencilsandstories.com/tinyprojects. You don't have to enter any email address or whatever, you can just download the list. Maybe there's some fun ideas for you to do. Maybe you can do them on the metro every single day. If you like these videos, I also have an email list, and to the people on that list, I send extra content. For example, last week we had the video about how studying art can become procrastination or a form of procrastination. And I sent to people on my list some extended content about that, some more insights, but also some tips on how you can actually get the knowledge and make sure that you actually retain it. And I gave them a small challenge that they could do that week. So if that's something that you would like, then I want to invite you to subscribe to my email list as well. You can go to pencilsandstories.com/extra. For now, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you like it, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to me on YouTube. And I'm very curious about what you think about the subject of creating every day. Are there some ways in your life where you can be creative? And if yes, then what are the ideas that you have? I'm super curious about this. Next week. Bye, guys.